You won't believe it, mate. Had a wild ride through time yesterday. I dabbled in this VR game, stepping into the shoes of an architect, touring through different historical eras. Wild, right? Got lost in the intricate details of the Roman Colosseum. Even noticed the chipped edges on the Chichen Itza stones. You'd have a field day in it, since you're into history. The best part is, I met this player named Andy, a fellow historical architecture enthusiast. We had this intellectually stimulating chat about the implications of VR in interactive learning. This was not your typical headshot gunshot game. I was chatting with Sam and Rachel about it, told them they got to try it out. It's literally like being transported to another time and place. So next time you swing by my place, we got a game. It's called Through the Ages. Trust me, it's a total game changer, no pun intended. But you know, classic me, I'm already brainstorming how to potentially leverage something like this for Neural Nest. Maybe an immersive onboarding experience for new hires. What do you think about it? Shifting topics, I need your advice. I've been feeling a bit guilty. I should be coding more for the startup, and yet this gaming has me hooked. I mean, it's not like I'm not learning anything, but you know what I mean? It's not productive in a traditional sense. By the way, the stress of startup life is getting to me. I tried Rachel's Parisian pastry recipe. Nailed the croissants. Beginner's luck, I suppose. You'll have to taste, and let me know. Alright, enough rambling. Had this strangely introspective evening today, mate. I sat down and did a long, hard look at myself, and not just in the mirror, mind you. Yeah, this was one of those sobering moments when you think about where you're heading, so I decided to iron out these personal boundaries, you know what I mean. I figured that there needs to be some line separating Chris the techie, or startup Chris, and, well, Chris, compartmentalization, or something that sounds extremely fancy. But honestly, it's that work-life balance jazz everyone keeps preaching about. Good old cliché, but true, nonetheless. I was chatting with Sam and Rachel about it, got some interesting feedback, especially from Rachel. It makes sense, considering she knows the startup grind with Maison Zero. She offered some cool tips on maintaining a strict schedule and all, some tough love stuff. You think hiking might help keep my workaholic tendencies at bay? Remember when we tried hiking that one time, and I couldn't tell my right boot from my left? Unlike Super Sam, who seems to love dodging trees as much as his coding marathons. It was hilarious when Rachel told him to try offline gaming before taking on trees in reality. Apparently pastries give you superpowers to dodge trees. Speaking of gaming, do you remember Through the Ages I was waxing lyrical about? Somehow Sam is ready to take that on. Hell, he's willing to face Dark Souls' real world before giving up pastries. I wonder if Parisian pastries might be the secret ingredient for survival in Dark Souls. Haha. But in all seriousness, these boundaries feel empowering. It's kinda like laying the bricks to my own haven, one sacred boundary at a time. Like I'm the architecture nerd building the Colosseum, one chip and stone at a time. Suddenly I feel as if I'm gaining control, not losing it. Life's weird, huh, buddy? Round to another dusk, ending a day of both work and reflections. So Neural Nest celebrated a milestone today, an unexpected beacon in the midst of startup chaos. It's almost surreal, pal. Feels like crossing a hill in a long hike, suddenly discovering an enchanting vista. Zelda vibes, eh? Sarah cut into this celebration mode. Mentioned something about setting boundaries, work-life balance, and employee well-being. Funny, she herself works a hell of a lot, but she has a point. Really got me brooding over the tiny gears of this tech juggernaut. Been chatting in the Neural Nest kitchenette, had some golden thoughts. We had this idea that Rachel's pastries be the snack department. Fooling around, but wouldn't it be cool to code munching on those pastries? Cognitive fuel, right? Sam surprisingly championed the idea, offering to rig up an LED vending machine. Tech placenta meets artisanal baking. If only Birkenstocks collaborated with Nike. Rachel kidding about baking a motherboard sparked an instant pitch-off session. Tech patisserie. Neural Nest, powered by pastries churned to bite, lit by LEDs. That little chat engine dynamited to a full-blown startup shtick. Straight from the horse's mouth, buddy. Discussions hopped from neural nest to jiu-jitsu. Had a training session with Jake today, mate. Intense ground fighting techniques, sweat and grind. Reminded me how every practice is stepping closer to that coveted black belt. Working out helps keep the startup stress at bay, helps me recharge. Speaking of stresses, had a heart-to-heart chat with Rachel in the evening. She shared some tips on maintaining a strict schedule. Something about her knowing startup grind with Maison Zero. Ilya's tip on hiking seemed to have struck a chord with her too. You remember that one time we practically banged our heads more on the low-lying tree branches than working those glutes? Life's spinning around, pal. Days pass in a haze of code and caffeine, and before you know it, boom, you've built a startup. I can't help but reflect, where's the line? Work and life, two peas in a pod, yet worlds apart. You get me, right? Work-life balance, it's almost like a checkpoint in a game, a stop sign forcing you to ponder the labyrinths of work and pause. It's like a respite amidst the ceaseless coding march. And I decided I need to start. It's daunting yet feels empowering, grounding, lucid in an odd way. Here's to cooking, gaming, and whacking a few more of those MMA moves into the jiu-jitsu grind. Chasing Nordic gods in God of War or whipping up beef stew might help keep the startup beast tame, eh? It's as if I'm designing my own coliseum of work-life balance, one brick at a time. And the architect's gloves fit comfortably, pal.